Welcome to the All Access Entertainment Podcast. I am your host, Joseph Bruen, and we have a very special guest this week, Mr. Thomas Tulak, of course, from Hook, and many other projects, and we're going to talk about all of them today. Of course, one of the Lost Boys, known as Too Small. Mr. Thomas Tulak, thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you here, and let's kind of rewind to the very beginning.
Okay.
Obviously, you grew up in the business, essentially, being a child actor. But growing up as a kid in general, what were some of your earliest memories as far as favorite cartoons, favorite movies?
Ooh, wow. So as a kid, the number one favorite would definitely have been Transformers Generation 1. The 1986 animated Transformers movie is still one of my favorites. In fact, I've got the poster hanging on my wall behind me.
Nice.
And then definitely I was also huge into the Ninja Turtles, the original, the OG cartoon from the 80s. That's
Absolutely.
my jam. And then what I recently decided is my all-time favorite movie, The Princess Bride.
Nice. Another classic.
Classic.
Andre the Giant.
Yeah, man.
So that being, was that a transition for you getting into those things and then being like at such a young age? Was it you that decided, I'd love to do something like that? Or, was it family members that were getting you into the business?
Oh, it was 100% me. I just had it in my head. I had it in my head, this mindset that if I see somebody else doing something, there's no reason I can't do it too. Like, what's different between them and me, So I'd see child actors on TV and movies and things, and I'd think, hey, that's a kid. I'm a kid. I could do that. And so I just kept pushing and pushing. And eventually, after, enough pushing, long enough, I don't know how long it was, but after long enough, my parents decided, well, if he's this adamant, let's see. And so by my pushing, they took me to an open talent search. There was a management company that was having an open search for just new talent, and they found it, and we went, and there was this big warehouse. There was like 500 kids, and they all auditioned to be represented. And I was one of like 50 that got called back. And then I was one of like 2 that they took on as clients. And then next thing you know, I'm being sent out on auditions.
Wow. That's tremendous. I mean, what an experience, and to experience that at such a young age. Obviously your family, like you said, they were supportive. What is the process like, the auditioning process, especially as a young child like that?
Well, I'm sure it's different now than it was. This was late 80s, early 90s when I was doing it. And so back then, my agent would, get a notice that somebody was looking for a kid that I fit the description of, and they would send me out on an audition, be there at this place at this time, and we'd go and we'd get the sides in person, which is less of a thing now. Nowadays, people do self-tapes and send a video, digital submission, but back then you had to go to the place and be there in person, and you'd walk into a room that was filled with a bunch of other people that looked just like you, and they'd give you some sides to learn, and you'd basically sit there in the waiting room waiting your turn, and one by one all the other actors who are there for the same part would go in and then come out, and you just wait your turn, then you go in, and they'd have people, 4 or 5, maybe 6 people sitting behind a table with a camera set up so they could film you, and there'd be like one person that would talk to you and say, all right, we're going to read this, and this person over here is going to read opposite you and read your lines, and then they would just deliver the most blankest, driest, line deliveries, because they're trying to see your reactions and your deliveries, and then you do your screen test, you deliver the lines, and then they'll say, okay, great, thanks, and then you leave, and then you find out later. They call your agent, and your agent will tell you whether you got the part or not.
Wow. And you're casted as one of the Lost Boys.
Yeah,
Obviously, too small, which was the youngest of the
that's
entire
correct.
group
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So you're casted on Hook. What is that process like? When did you first find out? Do you have any memory of that moment?
Yeah, so my agent got a notice that Spielberg was looking for a bunch of kids and that he was not looking for anyone under the age of 9. But my agent decided to send me on it anyways, even though I was 6. So I when I got the part, I ended up being the only cast member under the age of 9. But so I went out and I went to the first audition, which was just with some people who I don't know who they were, probably a casting director. And then a few days later, my agent calls and says, "Hey, you got a call back." But the callback was at Steven's office. So my mom took me to his office and we're waiting in his waiting room. And I remember his waiting room very, very clearly because his waiting room had a bunch of arcade games, which I'm sure were there just for the kids, right? Because he was auditioning, dozens and dozens of kids. So I'm sure he installed them just for us while we're waiting. Smart man. But there was a bunch of these arcade games that didn't require quarters or tokens or anything. You just walk up and hit the button and it starts playing. And so I was waiting there playing these arcade games. The one in specific I liked was a racing game where it actually had a car thing you could climb into and be enveloped in the game. And when they called it was my turn, I was so wrapped up in the game I didn't want to stop playing. But they pulled me away. They brought me into the office, and I vaguely remember. It's probably exaggerated in my memory because it's been decades. But in my memory, Steven had like a long Monty Burns from The Simpsons style like desk when he sat at one end with this long desk in front of him, and he sat in this on one end in this big chair with a bunch of people around him. I'm guessing casting directors, lawyers, producers, whatever. And I was supposed to sit at the other end of this long desk and do my audition, but instead I marched down the length of the desk, marched up to him, pounded my fist on his desk, pointed my finger in his face, and said, "You want to put me in your movie?" And that was the audition. And literally, when we got home from that audition, there was a message waiting on our answering machine from my agent saying I had booked the part.
Wow. And did you do anything to celebrate that? Do you remember anything like that or?
Honestly, I don't think I did because I don't think I knew what I was getting into. I knew I got something, but I didn't know how big it was going to be. I'm 6 years old. I didn't know who Steven Spielberg was. And then I get onto the set and I'm working with Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman and, all of these people. I don't know who any of them are. I just know that Robin Williams became a good friend. And then it was only in years later I discovered, oh, hey, he's one of the biggest stars on the planet.
Yeah.
I didn't know that at the time.
And is it a little
Obviously,
go ahead.
my parents probably knew. So now I'm questioning why they didn't do anything. But yeah, I don't recall doing anything.
Is it harder as a child actor to process different things, like process being in the moment and stuff, or are most of your memories after the fact kind of going back into it?
I think when you're, at least for me, it was more like I'm not aware of the weight of everything. I'm not aware of how big. I'm not aware of everything going on around me. I just know I'm in this big because all the sets were actually built. It wasn't like green screen studios or whatever. Like it was actually physical locations. The Nevertree, the pirate ship, all of it was real. And so I just remember feeling like this is the best playtime I'm ever going to have. I wanted to go run and jump and climb the trees and follow the trails and explore all the things. And I'm just having fun. And then, I got to go deliver these lines real quick. Sure. Okay. I do that. But really, I'm here having fun. And I don't really understand like, there's, a camera crew and there's, an entire large amount of people who are here monitoring and doing things. And it's a business. And that side of it, I didn't get, and then I have specific, memories and things I held on to that in retrospect, I look back on them and I'm like, yeah, that's actually a precious memory that I should hold on to. But at the time, it's that old saying, you don't know you're in the good old days until you've left them.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was 6 years old, I had no idea the glory, the grandeur of what I was doing.
Yeah. And when you're there on set, being younger, obviously, maybe you're not there as long as some of the adult actors. They probably want to give you a little bit more time. But what was that allotment of time? What did that look like, for a
It
full day?
was something I want to say. So I had to stay in school. Even though I was on in this at the studio all day every day, I still had to stay in school. So we had an on-set class that was grouped by age, and so the group that I was in, there was one teacher for every like 4 or 5 students, as opposed to like a public school where it's one teacher for every 30 something students, at least at the time. So I still had to go to school every day and do my homework and keep up my grades. Um, but I want to say I could only work like 4 hours a day, maybe 5 hours a day, because of child labor laws. And if my grades slipped, then I would lose my minors entertainers work permit. And so I had to keep my grades up. I don't remember what the GPA would have been, but I had to keep my grades up in order to be allowed to continue working on the set. And so my days would be half shooting and half school still.
Wow. And what's it like being in school and having friends in school, and now they're aware that you're involved in these projects and you're going to be in movies?
You know, I I I have to say, I've had a lot of people over the years uh contact me and tell me, "Hey, do you remember me? We went to school together." And I'm sorry, but I don't. Like, I'm they say they remember me because, I went and made this big movie, and so of course I'm going to stand out. So I make an impression, I guess, wherever I go. And I regret, and I'm so sorry to everybody who I ever met who I went to school with or something, and I don't remember them.
Right.
But I had a lot going on and dealing with a lot of things, and so, coming out of it, uh I make an impression, and yeah, there was this element of like, not everyone is, it's not always a positive impression. And yeah, there was an element of getting made fun of and teased by other kids at school, and yeah, it was difficult at the time to deal with. And there was a period of my life where I tried to distance myself from the movie, because when you're an adolescent and you're coming up, you want to fit in, you want to be like everybody else. But in hindsight, with the benefit of like, age and maturity, I look back on it and I don't feel like it was as difficult as it seemed at the time. I feel like, you know, if I knew somebody that was in, one of my favorite movies or whatever, I would want to, salute to them just like people were doing to me. They were just doing it in a more cruel way sometimes. Or maybe it just felt like it was cruel. Maybe it was just because it was being called out. So when I look back on it, I don't hate it as much as I did at the time. I'm grateful for it. I appreciate that I made an impression and that it meant so much to so many people.
Yeah. And do you remember what the film crew would do to kind of entertain the other children there, in between takes and whatever it may be? Because you got to keep everybody, you know, in tune.
Yeah, so most of the film crew had their own like film related jobs to do. The kids all had like handlers. Like there was one person like designated to keep an eye on, all the different kids or whatever. Like I don't remember specifically, but I feel like I had someone whose job it was to kind of just keep an eye on me. Plus my parents were there, or one of my parents was always there with me, so whenever it was in between takes or something, I'm playing with the other kids or I'm being entertained and handled by the person whose job it was to keep an eye on me.
And you mentioned that these sets were real sets and basically full size. Any particular memories that you have from being a part of those sets?
Oh man, the Never Tree set The set where the Lost Boys meet Peter for the first time, and then the sword duel and all that. Like, I very vividly remember all of those sets, and I just wanted to go run and jump on them because they're still, even still, they live in my memory. And the strangest thing is, um, the smell. I'll always remember the way it smelled. The smell of like freshly cut pine, because it was all built out of like wood. And so the anytime I smell lumber and the smell of freshly cut pine, and that brings me right back to those days. Because it was a big sound stage, right? That inside the soundstage, they built the set, so it's all built so that it can last for however long you're shooting and then be torn down so the next movie can be built in there. So nothing was permanent. So it was all like wood, nails, paint, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the whole set always just smelled like freshly cut pine, and to this day that smell will bring me right back. And I also have very fond memories of the Jolly Roger, the pirate ship, which I want to say was not quite full scale to what a big ship like that would have been. And it wouldn't need to be, to be on camera and look big. But the pirate village that was around it was huge and in depth. And they had all these details that the camera never saw, like inside the buildings, like the camera's out on the street or on the ship, and the buildings that surround, you could actually go into the building and there's stuff in there, just in case the camera happens to see it. And the ship was built in a sound studio that had like 3 feet of water. There was so that it would look like the ship was in the water. And there was this like wooden walkway that like the dock, to get out to the ship. And there's a scene where the Lost Boys, including myself, dressed up like pirates to go help Peter steal Captain Hook's hook. And my character is sat on the shoulders of one of the other bigger Lost Boys, which meant I wasn't wearing shoes when we filmed this, right? And the walkway was planks of wood put together like you would build a walkway. And so at some point, I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I'm walking down that hallway and my foot got stuck, got trapped in between the two planks of wood, and I fell and actually broke my toe.
Oh, wow.
So I have the injury to prove it was real.
Wow. Jeez. And did you befriend any of the other, fellow Lost Boys while on set, filming with them? Did you become friendly with them?
Oh, sure. Yeah, the ones that were closer to my age, sure. I mean, I don't blame the older kids. I'm 6, and we had I think the oldest was like 18. And so I don't blame an 18-year-old for not wanting to hang out with a 6-year-old. But the kids who were closer to my age, specifically Isaiah Robinson, who played Pockets, he's probably the one that I'm closest to because he's closest to me in age. And
Right.
so through the years, he's probably the one that I've kept in contact with the most. And then aside from him, I've also been in contact with Dante Bosco and James Madio and one or two others. But for the most part, Rashawn or Isaiah, closest to my age. And so, yeah, he and I were pretty close on set.
Nice.
And then, after like growing up, because we're, like I said, we're both close to the same age. So growing up, as we were both dealing with, our fellow classmates teasing and make fun of us, he and I were kind of there for each other, being that we were in it together. Like we were both going through the same thing at the same time. And so out of everyone, he's probably the closest.
Nice. Okay. So I see you still keep in touch with one. Well, that's a good thing. So, Steven Spielberg, you talked about your initial meeting there with in his office. Any other interactions that you remember with Steven?
Yeah. Let's see. So, there's a scene where we're discovering Robin. We're discovering Peter. Rufio draws the line in the sand, and the kids are going back and forth and back and forth. And Pockets kind of plays with his face and oh, there you are, Peter. That moment, my character pops up and is supposed to be laughing while I say, "Welcome back to Neverland, Panda Man." But I was 6 years old and didn't have like training in laughing, so I couldn't quite give a believable laughing performance. And so after enough takes where Steven wasn't happy with my laughing, he threatened to sit behind me below camera and tickle me to get me to laugh. And that threat alone was enough to get me to actually give a decent laughing performance. I don't know if that's the one that made it into the film, but you tell a 6-year-old kid you're going to tickle them and they're going to start laughing. Just the thought of being tickled. So, and then I remember we're filming the scene that I'm most known for, which is spitting out the candle and yelling "Good night, Neverland." I that's one that will always stick with me because so the way it worked, I'm supposed to blow out the candle, not spit it out. I'm supposed to blow it out, and there's a guy off camera with a button that actually turns off the candle. It wasn't a real flame.
Right.
But we could never get the timing right. We did take after take, and either I would blow and then beat and then the light would go out, or the light would go out before I would blow, or we could just take after take. We couldn't get the timing right. So finally Steven said he was getting frustrated. I don't think he was getting frustrated, actually. He never lost his cool. But in looking for an answer, he said, "Why don't you just spit it out?" And so that led me to doing the raspberry. And that was an audio cue that the guy with the button could pick up on. And we nailed the timing in one take, and that's the take that was in the film.
Wow. Oh, interesting. Very cool. Yeah, it's always interesting to hear those behind the scenes, little moments that really stand out, though, if you think about it. So when it comes to film, how long are you on set per day? And how long was the entire shoot of the Hook film? How long did that last?
So as a minor, I think I was only on set for like 4 hours a day, maybe 5. And the entire amount of time that I was there was about 7 months. But that is just for the Lost Boy stuff. I feel like production continued because there's plenty of stuff that I wasn't around for, all of the stuff in the real world, all of the stuff where the Lost Boys aren't around, you know, and then there's a lot of stuff that was shot that got cut out. So I have no idea how long production overall lasted. I'm guessing probably, up to, and if not more than a year. But I only was on set for about 7 months.
And some of that stuff that was cut out, do you know if that was any of it was ever released on special features or anything like that?
Some of it was probably about 2015, 16, somewhere in there. They released a 4K Blu-ray re-release version of it that came with some deleted scenes. And some of the scenes that I was in, like there's a scene where all the Lost Boys are introducing themselves to Peter and telling him our names and why that's our name. And that it didn't make it into the film, but it was part of the deleted scenes that was featured. But there are other scenes that I remember filming that I have yet to see anywhere. So like there's a scene where all the Lost Boys are gathered in one giant bed and Peter Pan, or he's still Peter Banning at the time, is telling us a bedtime story that of course was just Robin improvising and ad-libbing. And it was a lot of fun to shoot, and I've seen pictures of it, but the actual scene itself, I couldn't tell you where it is.
And when it comes to those sets, and you said they were quite large, did they destroy them after the fact? Are they saved to this day somewhere?
That's a question I wouldn't have an answer to. Yeah. I know that literally as soon as we wrapped that night, they would have had to pull the sets out to start, because I do remember on the last few days seeing things for the next film that was going to be shot in there start like being staged outside. So I can't imagine it was very long. after we were done that the next film started going in, but I couldn't tell you what happened to any of the sets.
And was there a special premiere for the cast?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, there was a beautiful premiere with a rap party after. I don't remember where it was, but I feel like it would have been at one of the more prestigious theaters in Hollywood. And I attended and walked the red carpet and everything. And then afterward, there was a rap party. I couldn't tell you where, but it was a beautiful party, and they had a 1/4 scale pirate ship in the middle of the room where we could all climb and play. And there was another room in the back where they had arcade games and pinball machines and the what would eventually be the Nintendo release of the game for Hook. There was an arcade version of it there, and so yeah, it was an awesome. In fact, also at this rap party, I was gifted a rap gift from Robin that was a hardbound copy of the original draft of the script with his autograph and personal insignia on it, which
Wow.
I still have. I have in a lockbox on my shelf on display.
Actually, that was going to be my next question is, do you have a keepsake from your career thus far? That means a lot to you. Would that be probably your favorite item?
That would be the biggest one, yeah. Because Robin's like the big brother to me. Like he's personal hero. He and I became very close on set, and so having his autograph on the copy of this copy of the script, yeah, that's something that's very very near and dear to me. I also have. I have. This is a goblet that was screen used, and then afterward we got the Dremel there where it says Hook Too Small 1991 inscription on it. But this was used on screen, prop goblet from, I want to say, the Pirate Village
What a great
somewhere.
piece.
Obviously it wasn't a Lost Boy thing.
Yeah.
But I keep my pens and pencils in it. That's Mr. Meeseeks right there with googly eyes.
Nice. So let's talk about Robin. I mean, you can't talk about Hook without Robin Williams.
It's true.
Obviously, such a huge part of not only that film, but Hollywood in general. I mean, when you talk about Robin Williams, what a special individual. He puts his passion, all of his passion, into all of his roles, and you can tell. He stands out. Do you remember your earliest interaction with Robin? And tell us all about the relationship between the two of you. You became close, like you said.
I don't think I actually remember my earliest interaction with him. I don't actually think I remember how I met him and how the initial meeting went, but I do know that of all the Lost Boys, I was kind of the closest to the age of his son, who he wasn't able to see while he was filming the movie, because he was, down in LA for the entire time, staying at a hotel nearby instead of going home to his family every night. So he didn't get to see his son. And so I feel like he kind of, I kind of was, I don't want to say surrogate, but like he was spending time with me to make up for missing his own children. And so because of that, I remember spending a lot of time with him when neither of us were filming, like off camera. We're playing games where we're playing. He would come and come to my trailer. He would knock on my trailer door, and my mom would answer, and he would stand there like a little kid with his hands behind his back, going, "Can Tommy come out to play?" And then we'd come out and we'd throw a basketball around, and we'd shoot some hoops, or we had Game Boys, and that before Wi-Fi, when we'd have to connect the Game Boys with a little 3-foot cable so we could play games with each other, like all kinds of stuff like that. I went to his birthday party. He served gummy bears and Kool-Aid. It was like, and so in the scene where Rufio draws the line in the sand and the Lost Boys are going back and forth, I was supposed to go back and forth with the rest of the Lost Boys, but by that time I had become such good friends with Robin that I felt if I did that, I would be betraying my friend. And so you can see I don't run. I do it one time and then that's it. I stay. And in fact, not only do I stay, I hold his hand because I wanted to show my loyalty to him. I couldn't betray him. I mean, I know he wouldn't have cared. It's part of the scene, it's acting, but little 6-year-old me didn't know the difference. And I couldn't betray my friend. So I stayed with him when I was supposed to run back and forth.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm there with him the whole time in the film.
And did you keep in contact with Robin after the filming?
Not as much as some of the other Lost Boys. I did talk to him once or twice after, just kind of to catch up. So at one point, shortly after the film, kind of just to catch up, and then a few years later, when I was in my 20s, I kind of reached out to his agent and told him who I was and that I just wanted to talk to him. And one day he called me directly to my phone, and we chatted for a little bit, and then it wasn't too long after that he was no longer with us. And so I did talk to him a few times, but not as much as I would have liked.
And when it comes to Robin's legacy, in your opinion, how do you feel that Robin should be remembered in this industry?
I feel like he would want for you to smile. I feel like his whole mission in life was to make you laugh, to make you smile, to make you feel good. And I feel like if you were sad, he would be unhappy with that. I feel like the best way to honor him is with laughter. I truly believe that making people around him laugh made him feel better, enriched himself. And so everywhere he went, he was always making people laugh, making people smile, and I feel like that was his mission. And so I feel like the best way to honor and remember him is not through overly sentimental, heavy, heartfelt drama, but with smiles and laughters and jokes. And, in his stand up, he talks about getting buried ass up. So there's a place to park your bike. It's like, I think he would want you to crack jokes like that. See what I did there? Crack jokes. I honestly think he would want you to laugh more than anything. And if somebody could make some jokes at his funeral, I'm sure he would have wanted that.
Let's talk about the costumes of Hook. Any memories of the costumes that you would wear for this?
I had a yellow plaid onesie that was a little bit too small, and so it constantly gave me a wedgie. And so there's multiple times in the film where you can see my character kind of leaning to the side, and you can't see why, you can't see what I'm doing, but I know what I'm doing. I'm pulling a wedgie out. Because this thing was just a little bit too small for me. So there's multiple times where I'm leaning and I'm just kind of pulling out a wedgie.
That's great.
Yeah.
So how many different were you pretty much in the same thing for all the filming, or would they give you different outfits? Or
No, yeah, I was in the same thing. There was probably 6 or 8 different like versions of the outfit, but they were all the same outfit until the battle scene, and then really they just put armor on top of the outfit. So yeah, I was pretty much in the same outfit the whole time.
And the man behind the hook, Dustin Hoffman, any memories of working with him?
Not as much. I do know that for his birthday, he gave out gifts. Instead of us giving him gifts, he gave out gifts of it was an audio tape of him reading Horton Hears a Who by Dr. Seuss.
Wow.
And so somewhere I have or had an audio tape of Dustin Hoffman reading Horton Hears a Who with an accompanying book to go with it. But I feel like Dustin kind of kept his distance from the kids so that he could maintain, because he's the bad guy, right?
Sure.
He's the enemy of the kids. And so if if he maintains his distance and maintains this, scary pirate figure, then he can keep up that aura when the kids are around him that he's someone who we are not friends with, you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't think I did have too many memories or too much time spent with Dustin. I do know that Dante Bosco, who plays Rufio, he talks about asking Dustin Hoffman for acting lessons, specifically in his death scene. And so there was time when Dustin like took him aside and kind of coached him a little bit, but Dante was also like 17 or 18 and I was 6, so we had different experiences.
And how was Dante with the younger kids during that filming?
I mean, he was, he was nice. He was get along. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Dante is one of the coolest dudes, one of the smoothest, coolest, chillest dudes you'll ever meet. He's a cool guy.
Yeah. And obviously you watched the film, well, you're a part of the film, and then you fast forward to the big premiere that you talked about. But fast forward, you're watching for the first time maybe as a young adult or whenever you saw it next. Did you remember it exactly like you know, envisioned it in your head? Or, what was your take on it when you saw it as an adult?
So since I was there and I know what the sets looked like, I know what the sets smell like, since I know where the edge of the set was and where the soundstage was, and I know, where the table with the snacks were, and I know all of that stuff, it never felt like a movie to me. What it felt more like to me was old home movies of Christmas morning when you were a kid that your dad was filming with his camcorder. That's what it was like to me. Like it just every time I watch it, it activates memories of being there. And so it wasn't until I was much older and had some experience directing that I look back on rewatching that I rewatched the film and actually started to appreciate the filmmaking of it and started to appreciate the direction and the camera work and the lighting and the production design and everything that went into it that I had been blind to before because my experience of it being, like I said, a home movie. I'm associating it with the memories of being there. But once I have had behind the camera experience of my own, I can go back and appreciate, wow, it was actually really well made,
Yeah.
really well directed, really well shot. There was some camera work in there that just impresses the hell out of me. Like there's one shot in the beginning where the cop is there interviewing because the kids were just kidnapped, and he's taking their statement in before he gets to Neverland, and it's all done in one take. And when the scene is done, the camera backs out, and we were looking in a window the whole time. And the camera pulls out to the exterior of the house. And when I caught that after having behind the camera experience, after having directed some things and directed a camera, and I saw that and I was like, wow, what the heck even? Like how that's so cool.
And riding that wave post release of the film and seeing the coloring books and seeing the video games and the color forms and the action figures, what was that like? Still being so young and just seeing all of this stuff come out.
Oh man, my dad collected all of the trading cards. He has the entire collection multiple times over. The toys, the action figures, the coloring books, the bedspread, the pillowcases, all of that stuff. And it's weird. I don't think I had prior to that a cognizant awareness of the difference because this all started when I turned 7 years old on set, and so my memory of my life before Hook is limited to next to nothing. And so I kind of just grew up with my face on action figures and on bed sheets. And it just kind of was normal for me because I don't really I wasn't really old enough to have a life prior to that. So instead of marveling at it, it just kind of became normal to the point where if I see a piece of Hook paraphernalia, I go, where's my character? Okay, I'm on that one, but I'm not on that one. What the heck?
Yeah.
So somebody online is working on creating a Lego version of the pirate ship with the Lost Boys and with Peter and Captain Hook. And when I saw that, the first thing I noticed was my character wasn't there. So I had to leave a comment saying, "Hey, where's Too Small?" Next thing I know, in the next iteration, Too Small was there. So all right then.
Very nice. Can't leave out Too Small. Come on
You
now.
can't leave out Too Small. Come on.
Now, fast forward years later, obviously you've gone on to become a writer, director, cinematographer, editor. You've done it all. You've got your hands in a lot of different pots. Why don't you tell us about school, where you went for school for all of this and how that came about?
Sure. So I studied film at the Art Institute of California. I majored in screenwriting, but I also, the school kind of gives you a little bit of everything. So while I majored in screenwriting, I also learned basics for directing, editing, managing a set, all that kind of stuff. And also, I feel like I really cut my teeth on. I ran a YouTube channel with weekly updated YouTube show videos from 2009 to 2015. And it was all scripted comedy that I treated like a variety show, but I was producing it all myself. And so my challenge there was to every week make an episode, essentially, just a YouTube video, but essentially make an episode of this show that was better than the previous week. And that's really where, more so than film school, that's really where I developed my skills for scripting, shooting, editing, plotting it out, planning out what I want to do, doing it and making it happen. Like, when you're doing it consistently over time, you develop the skills. And it wasn't long doing that I really started to feel like I was getting pretty good at what I'm doing.
Yeah. What would you say is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
The best piece of advice that I ever received came from Kevin Smith. Years ago, I had an opportunity to ask him, how do you get a movie made? How would you go about doing, like, how do you do that? And his response was, just go do it. Nobody's going to help you. The cavalry isn't coming. There's no big Hollywood executive waiting to discover you to make your movie. If you want to make a movie, just go make a movie. And this was more than a decade ago. But now in 2025, 2026, now we are truly living in the best time to be a creator. You've got literally a camera on your phone. You can download editing software for free. Like, if you want to make a movie, there's nothing stopping you. And I got that from Kevin Smith. Just go do it. Just go make your movie.
And what is your personal Mount Rushmore of film? If you could pick your top 4 of all time, what would those be? Any genre?
Any genre, top 4 of all time. Okay. Well, I recently decided that my all-time favorite movie is The Princess Bride. I also really like Spaceballs.
Another classic.
Let's see. Oh man, it's great question. I really like, oh man, I love movies. So picking just 5 is going to be tough, but I'm a huge fan of the first Terminator movie and the first Crow, The Crow with Brandon Lee. Those 2 movies always felt like, because I was always too young to see them, but I saw them anyways. And aside from the fact that they're great movies, I felt like those movies were big boy movies.
Yeah.
You know, I love Star Wars. I love Empire Strikes Back. But when I watch Empire Strikes Back and then I watch The Terminator or The Crow, I feel like those, I mean, those are R-rated movies. I shouldn't have been watching them at that age, but I did. And those felt like, okay, these are big boy movies. These are grown-up movies. These are more mature, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the idealized in my head kind of reaction to them. But man, oh man, let's see. I'm a big fan of Edgar Wright, anything that he does. I'm a big fan of Aaron Sorkin, anything that he does. Um, The Social Network, directed by David Fincher, written by Edgar Wright, is another one of my favorite movies. I feel like that movie is what happens when you get one of the best directors working with one of the best screenwriters, working with some of the best cast. And that is an example. I feel like that movie is an example of filmmaking at its finest. Um, let's see. I also, in recent years, I liked Everything Everywhere All at Once. The filmmaking in that movie is next level. And what blows me away about that movie was the editing team consisted of 5 people who did not go to film school, but learned how to edit by watching YouTube videos. And they went on to win an Oscar.
Wow.
They won awards for their editing. And that was a great movie with some next level editing. And so that's like huge motivation, I think, to anybody who wants to make a movie. You don't necessarily have to go to film school. You know, Quentin Tarantino is famous for saying, I didn't go to film school, I went to films. Well, you know, same thing here. They learned how to edit on YouTube.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Anybody can do it. That's a perfect example.
Yeah. Just how badly do you want it? Put in the time to learn it, and you can do it.
Now, you've won many awards. You've done a lot of short films. Stars Behind the Clouds. Let's talk about that. What's that all about?
Stars Behind the Clouds. I was hired to direct that one. It was written by a very talented writer actor by the name of Kelsey Doherty, and it is the true story of how she met the man who she would eventually marry. And so it's a true story, and I was very grateful and very honored that she trusted me to tell her story. So she kind of reached out to me and offered me the job of directing, and I read the script and I loved it, because I'm a romantic at heart, you know. And so it was a beautifully written script, a beautiful story, and the fact that it's a true story, the fact that this is really how she met her husband, it just made it really sweet. And so I tried to do it justice, and I feel like it did, because it had a very successful festival run. It won a bunch of awards. I don't know where it is now. It was Kelsey produced it, and so it's kind of, I don't know if she's released it anywhere. It hasn't been that last I checked, she's still looking for a home for it. But you know, I would love for it to get released and for, you know, everybody to see it, because I feel like it was a beautiful story.
And the Silicon Beach Film Festival, you would go on to get the best sci-fi short film for 2024. Tell us all about that experience.
So that is a storied experience there. That was for a short film that I wrote and produced and directed called Therf, which okay, so we're going to backtrack a little bit on this one. In I'm going to say 2015, 2016, somewhere in there, I discovered the Mandela effect, and it blew my mind. And so I wrote what was at the time going to be a web series, because I was just fresh off of doing my YouTube channel, so I was obsessed with web series stuff. And so I wrote what I intended to be a web series revolving around the multiverse and the Mandela effect, and a character called Therf, who kind of she's kind of an anti-hero. She kind of chases the protagonist through the multiverse to get back They have something of hers and she's trying to get it back. But it was a fun, silly comedy thing, and I had a lot of fun writing it. And we went into production on the series. We got about halfway in, and the project fell apart. And I don't want to really get into the details of why, but I have a pilot episode for that show. It was called The Darkest Timeline. I have the pilot, and then that's really all that was completed because the project fell apart. And so that started how I'm actually need to go further back. It was in a 48-hour film competition before that that we made a short film on this premise. And then we transformed the short film into that web series. And then when it fell apart, I kind of shelved it for a little bit so I could focus on other things. And then I eventually, after I made my first feature and got that out and released, I revisited the character, but I decided, you know what? I don't want to do it as a fun little comedy, silly kind of thing. I want to do it as a feature, and I want to do it as a serious, with levity, but still, more dark and gritty kind of thriller kind of thing. And so I wrote a 20-page short film proof of concept and shot that, and it's called Therf, and it is I feel like it is an accomplishment in terms of cinematography and special effects for myself, because I did all of that stuff and I kind of pushed myself into learning how to do a lot of that stuff for that. And then the short film won that award and played in a couple other festivals, and it was really cool to see that get recognized. And then I started writing the feature script based off of that, and I got about 80 pages in, and I need to revisit. I have other projects that have taken more of my attention, and so it's one of those things that just kind of it sits on the shelf, and every now and again I pull it back out, work on it a little bit, and put it back on the shelf because there's a dozen other things on that shelf, and they're all taking my attention.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's on the shelf, so you never know. You'll be able to take it out any day. So
exactly, for sure. I will say this though, the lead actress in that, her name is Aubrey Hanson. When we went into production, she was pregnant, and she had fight scenes that we had to very carefully choreograph so we could do it safely. And she was a badass. She was just she killed it. She came to set every day and brought her A game, even though she was pregnant while production. And I couldn't be more proud of her. She always delivered. I worked with her many times, but this particular time as one of the leads, I couldn't be more proud of her dedication and going through all of that while pregnant. So in the credits, I credited her unborn child as the youngest cast member.
Oh, excellent. Wow, that's nice. There you go.
Yeah.
Now let's elaborate a little bit on the feature film directorial debut. So who done it? Let's hear about it. That's a big deal. I mean, feature film,
Yeah. So it's I feel I'm very proud of that film. It's called Who Dun 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 It, and it is now streaming on Tubi and Fossum and Reveal and a couple of other AVOD platforms. And like anybody's first feature, that is several years and several iterations into being created. But there's a lot of my heart and soul in this film. There's a lot of me in this film. It started in circa 2016, after I was there. So I have younger siblings that there's like a 17-year age gap between me and them. And so one day I was at my dad's house and I was showing them another one of my favorite movies, Clue. And driving home after that experience, sitting with that movie in my head, driving through his middle-class suburban house, neighborhood, it kind of hit me. I'm thinking about the tropes of the murder mystery genre. They got the big 18 bedroom mansion that's out in the middle of nowhere on a night with bad weather, so the phone lines get cut and everybody's trapped and there's secret passages and there are all these things. Well, what if the same thing happened, but you're in a regular 3-bedroom suburban middle class house with your neighbors right next door, but there's always a reason why you can't leave the house. It's perfect weather outside. There's not a storm, and it's modern day, so everybody's got a phone, but there's always a reason why you can't leave the house. There's always a reason why you can't use your phone. Everything from my phone's dead and I forgot my charger to there's no reception here to you name it, you know. And what if we took all those classic stereotype tropes of that genre and we flipped them and we twisted them and applied to present modern day?
Right.
And that kind of started this idea, and before I knew it, I was writing it out, and the more I wrote, the more I just fell in love with this idea. And so I decided to make it, not just to make it, but to make it the kind of movie that I would want to watch. And so I threw all of my favorite comedy tropes into it. I mentioned Spaceballs, I mentioned Clue. I also loved, Wayne's World. And I love jokes and movies where they can break the fourth wall. And so I wanted to have that element in it. And so one of the things I did is I put myself in the film as a character, as a guest at the dinner party, but I'm also the director of the film. So I could not only break the fourth wall, I can tear that sucker down. So, and of course, I don't play myself in the film. I cast somebody who's better looking than me to play me in the film, but he plays me, and he's in there in the film talking to the other characters, both as a character, a guest at the dinner party, another murder suspect, but also as the director of the film that they are in.
Right.
So it's meta upon meta, and we're tearing down that fourth wall. And so I made a proof of concept short version of that in 2016 or 17, and that had a successful festival run. And then I spent years trying to get that made, and that's actually eventually what led me to asking Kevin Smith, how do you get a movie made? Because I had this script that I wanted to do, and he said, just do it. So, okay, so I'm just going to do it. So I got together with, I had been at that point, at the time I went into production on that film, I had made something like 20 short films, and I had been freelancing for years, and I had made all kinds of stuff, and I had built up a network of filmmaker types, actors, crew members, helping them with their stuff, them helping me with my stuff. And so I just kind of went to everybody and said, hey, I've got the script and I want to make it. Who's in? And we just all got together and we just pooled our money and we just made the thing. And then it went on to premiere at Kevin Smith's inaugural Smodcastle Film Festival in 2022, I think it was. And then it got picked up by a distribution company called Three Keys Media. And like I said earlier, it's now streaming for free on multiple platforms. And so, anybody listening to this right now, it would help me out if you go and watch my movie.
Absolutely. And, it kind of shows that, if you really put in the hard work and the dedication, really anybody can get involved in filmmaking. I remember you said in a previous interview that I had seen before that, everybody pulled their money together and it was about $10,000, for the budget. So, you don't have to be a millionaire to
Yeah.
something like this off the ground.
100%. That's absolutely correct. We, myself and a small group of people that just wanted to make this movie, we pooled our money together. So there was no big investor. There was no Hollywood executive. We didn't even crowdfund. We pooled our money into one big pot, and the total, altogether total balance of that pot was about $10,000. And that's what we made the film on. And the way I see it, yeah, you can raise $10,000 if you need to. If you really needed to, you can do it. The only thing stopping you is your own will at this point. everything you need is so readily accessible. Even if you have to use your phone, I your phone is better than nothing. I do recommend getting a camera, an actual camera if you can, but if the alternative is not doing it, your phone's better than nothing. And you can download DaVinci Resolve, which is a very powerful video editor for free. And you can get into editing now for free. And so there's really nothing stopping you. Anybody can do it. You just have to want it enough to, so here's the thing. I was kind of the champion of this film in that I produced it, I wrote it, I directed it, and I edited it, and I did the color grading. Those are the jobs for which I was credited. But there's a dozen jobs that I did that I chose not to credit myself for simply because they needed to get done. And when you're doing it at a budget of $10,000, you don't have the budget to hire people to do it. So there were days when I was stocking the craft service table. I was refilling the water bottles. I'm the director, but I was refilling the water bottles. There were days when I held the slate because we had nobody else to run the slate. There were days, I'm cleaning up after everybody went home. And the point that I'm trying to make is anybody can do this. You gotta be willing to take on the lion's share of the work to get your film made. You're the champion of it. It's not going to happen if you don't do it. You just got to want it badly enough to be willing to take on the lion's share of the work and set your ego aside. Do whatever it is that needs to get done because it needs to get done and there's nobody else to do it. Yeah. You do that, your movie will get made. Simple as that.
Yeah, exactly. Have you been able to get out there and see the fans? Have you hit the convention scene yet? And if so, is there a fan interaction that stands out more than the other?
I in terms of for Hook or in terms of like for my films?
Either or.
For just in general?
Yeah.
So a little bit, not like a lot, but a little bit. I've been out there and I've met some people, and when it comes to my film, to who I say my film, yes, Hook was my film, but I'm talking about the movie I directed. The refrain that I keep getting is people are surprised that it was good. People are surprised that they enjoyed it. Either that or because it is a comedy and comedy is subjective. So the other half of that is I get people who didn't find it very funny and they'll tell me I didn't think it was very funny. And that's fair. Yeah, it's a comedy. Comedy, you don't have to like my sense of humor. But what stands out is the people that say I wasn't expecting it to be funny and it was funny and they enjoyed it. And so I'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely. 1991 to 1992. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
1991 to 1992, you'd also appear on 3 episodes of the iconic hit series Cheers. Now, television as opposed to movies, obviously a little bit different, but explain that process.
Yeah, I was actually on 4 episodes of the show, but they cut all of my scenes out of one of the episodes. So I'm only credited for 3, and you can't find my scenes in the 4th episode anywhere. But I did show up to set and film scenes for 4 episodes. But yeah, it's different in that, the sets are more permanent. The sets that were built for Hook were built to be removed after a year or however long. The sets for Cheers were intended to be there for a decade because Cheers ran for something like 8 or 9 years, I think. And so there's a little bit more permanence that goes into something that's going to be around that much longer. And so it was more, systematic. By the time I joined the cast, it was very much a formula. They had everything planned out. They knew what was happening when and where. Whereas on Hook, it was they're figuring it out. There was still a formula, but by the time I joined the cast of Cheers, that formula had been time tested for years and meticulously planned. And on Monday we're gonna do a table read. And then we're going to be rehearsing all week. And then we're going to do a dress rehearsal on Thursday. And we're going to shoot it on Friday in front of a live audience. And this whole thing is all planned out. And I do remember, I remember being in that set, which was a bar set. And, you know, as far as I knew at the time, that's what a bar really looked like. You know, I thought, I'm 7 years old and I'm hanging out in this bar. Something isn't right here, but I'm having fun, you know? And so I do vaguely remember being on that set and just having a blast with what the set was. You know, I wanted to go run around and play even on that set. Um, but yeah, what was the question again? I'm just remembering being on set.
Oh, just, what the experience is like, in
Yeah.
general, what you just explained, and kind of what the difference is, I guess, between television and film when it comes to the actual,
I think the biggest difference that I was able to kind of piece together in hindsight, that I didn't know this at the time, but when I look back on it, knowing what I know now, and I look back on my experience on the set now, I think the biggest difference is that with a show like Cheers, what it is that's long running, pick any sitcom that ran for, so many seasons, 7, 8, 9, 10, however many seasons, pick the sitcom and the same thing can be said, or not even sitcom, pick the show, period. And the same thing can be said. The show is what the show is. It's a set formula. And even though they're going to bring in a different director for every episode, that director is not really going to change too much about the formula. That director might be able to do a little bit of something to put their stamp on it, maybe, but in general, the show is what the show is. It's kind of a self-running machine because all the crew that is working on it is the same crew for every episode, for every season. All the cast that's been there, it's the same cast, and they all know what to do because they've been doing it every day for years. And so when a guest director comes in to direct an episode, they really don't get to put their stamp on it too much. I feel like television, and again, this is something that I kind of figured out after the fact, as an adult, with knowing what I know now, looking back on it, television is really more of a writer's medium. Movies are more of a director's medium. So on a feature film like Hook, Steven Spielberg got to put his stamp all over that film. He was the one setting the tone. He was the one deciding what the film was and what was going to happen when and all of that. But if Steven had come over to, say, Cheers to direct an episode, he wouldn't have had quite as much leeway to do that because Cheers is what Cheers is, if that makes any sense.
Sure. And you went on to Mad About You for an appearance as well?
Yes, I did have one episode of Mad About You, which, same deal. Everything was kind of set like it was going to be what it was. And I was only on that for one episode, so not quite the same. But the same deal in that they had their own formula. They had their own set way of how it was going to be. And I just kind of stepped in and did it, and I do remember going back to Cheers. I remember being there toward the end when the show finished, because there was a rumor that the studio had wanted to do a spin-off show, and we know now that it became Frasier, but at the time they were trying to decide between Frasier or Carla. Carla was my character's mother. And so if the studio had decided to go with a spin-off based on Carla, then I would have reprised my role in the spin-off, and I would have then been a series regular on what would be the show Carla for the next, decade or so.
Wow.
And so I remember being there on the set of Cheers for the last day for the wrap party, and anxiously awaiting the announcement of who's going to get the spinoff. And everybody's celebrating, and it's a party, and then they come out and they announce, yeah, we're going to do Frasier. And that's when myself and the other kids who were Carla's kids, we kind of just went, well, I guess that's peace out for us then. And we just kind of left.
Still a nice experience to, kind of see both sides of things, television, film. definitely all adds to your finished product that you have now become. Not that you're a finished product because you've got more to give to the world, of course, but it all adds to the creative. So,
For sure, for sure. Yeah, indeed, everything adds up. I don't think I would be the man I am today if I didn't have that experience as a kid. I kind of dedicated myself to making stuff, and I don't know that I would have if I didn't have that. But I'm glad that I did, because now I can make stuff, and I hopefully can inspire other people to make stuff as well. I'm about to go into production on what will be my second feature film, and I don't know that I would be there. I don't know that I'd have the first one or this one or anything else if I didn't have the experience I had as a kid. And all I can hope is that my experience can inspire people to do it too, you know, because I was just a kid. I just went on auditions. I didn't have any connections. I didn't know anybody. I just found an open casting call and went. And yeah, we're in a different time now than we were then. The industry is different, but I was just some random kid that went on an audition, you know? So if I can do it, anybody can do it.
and how can fans follow you and your upcoming projects and the work that you've put out thus far?
So you can find me on Instagram at TN Tulak. You can find me on TikTok at I think my name on TikTok is at Thomas Tulak or at TN Tulak. Or you can just check out my website, easilyamusedgroup.com. That's my production company, Easily Amused Group Productions. And that's where I've got all kinds of the stuff that I've done. A lot of the stuff that I've done already, you can watch my feature there. You can watch, I've made, God, I think something like 25 short films and 3 or 4 web series and just a bunch of stuff. And a lot of it, not all of it, because I'm not proud of all of it, but a lot of it is up there on the website. And so easilyamusedgroup.com. And yeah, just social media.
And obviously, they're all your babies in some form or fashion. But if you had to pick one favorite moment in your career thus far, what would that project be?
Ooh, oh man. I think okay, so ever since I was a kid on the set of Hook, watching Steven Spielberg directing and working closely with Robin, I knew that I wanted to spend my life both directing. I wanted to be what I wanted to do what Steven was doing. I wanted to be a director, be the one in charge, and I wanted to spend my life making people laugh. And the culmination and product of that is my first feature we talked about earlier, Who Done It, where I wrote and directed a movie that I hope makes people laugh. And so the finishing of that film is the culmination of essentially my entire life dream. The dream that I had since I was a kid to be the director of something that makes people laugh. And so completing that film was the resolution of that for me. And then that culminates on the moment I found out that it was going to premiere in Kevin Smith's film festival. So not only did I complete a lifelong dream of making a film, it's now going to go be in a big festival with a director who I respect a lot. I have a lot of respect for Kevin Smith because he embodies a lot of the things that I was saying. Just go do it. He was just a kid from nowhere. He made Clerks on credit cards. He went into debt to make his first movie, and he built an empire off of that. And I kind of think of Kevin Smith like, the Gandalf of filmmakers. He empowers people around him. He inspires people around him. He inspired me. His film Dogma taught me that a movie can be anything you want it to be. You are limited only by your creativity. There's no rules to say what a movie can or can't be. You can make whatever movie you want to make. Just go make it. And so, full circle moment, bringing that around, I want to spend my life directing things that make people laugh. The guy who directed a movie that majorly inspired me just accepted my film into his film festival. I think that's probably my favorite moment.
Awesome. And fast forward many years from now, in closing, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered?
At the end of the day, I would want the same thing that Robin would want. I think I want people to laugh. I want people to look back on the stuff that I make and feel good. It'd be nice if somebody looked back on it and, dissected and appreciated the artistry at work. But at the end of the day, if I make you laugh, I'm happy.
Thomas, thank you so much for being here and taking the time this week for the All Access podcast. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much for having me. I had fun.
For Thomas Tulak, I am Joseph Bruen. This has been the All Access Entertainment Podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave your comments. We'd love to hear from you and what you enjoyed about this episode and the episodes to come, what you'd like to see. So thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bangarang.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.